Hello and welcome to the Soulful of It podcast, where the cosmos meet the cards and the mundane becomes magical. I'm your guide, Kari Raquel, and in this episode, we'll cover the astrological transits and tarot for February of 2025. Now, let's fill your cup up until you're soul full of it. Hello and welcome, everybody. Today we are joined by a creative and intuitive tarot reader and friend of the podcast, and personal friend to me, of course, the incredible Kaylin Rebecca. Kaylin, it is so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay! So, just to get us started with introducing you more to our listeners that are probably very curious to learn more about you, especially as we get further into the episode, would you please share with us your big three, your sun, moon, and rising sign placements?
Yes, so I am a Scorpio sun and moon and a Cancer rising.
All that water up in here. She's a mermaid.
I am a mermaid. I do all my energy work with music, just like any mermaid would. I have long red hair. Every single day you can find me in and at the ocean. Yeah, all the things.
It's just your friendly neighborhood mermaid.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. And where can our listeners connect with you, find you out in the interwebs if they want to learn more or just kind of pick up on what you're putting down out in the world?
So I also guest star a lot on the Multidimensional podcast. So that is at Multidimensional Pod on Instagram. I hang out there all the time. And then my personal Instagram is probably the best place to find me, message me, see about me, all the things, which is at Kaylin Rebecca. That's also my TikTok. I have a weird relationship with TikTok. Sometimes I post like funny, unhinged things there. If you like that vibe, you can find me there as well. And I actually just started, I don't even know if I told you this, I just started an Instagram and a TikTok that is at Star Wars Spirituality, just going through the hero's journey of Star Wars. So you can find me there as well.
That is incredible. And actually, no, that is news to me. You did not mention it, and I'm
Yeah.
so excited.
I mean, I literally just started it. I haven't posted anything yet. So
Wow, that's so fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and also just lending your magic and your expertise to us here on the podcast. And as always, that could be an indicator that she'll be back again. We love boomerangs up in here.
yes.
So, to kind of kickstart us here, I did want to give us a quick recap as far as what went down last month. So, we have a bit of a foundation moving into this month as we talk through the tarot that you pull and the transits that are going to be unfolding over the next few weeks. So, in January, we had a lot of big headlines, we had a lot of chaos in the collective. There were, of course, and this is very home to you over there in California, the devastating fires in Los Angeles and that whole area. There was also, you brought up TikTok, the whiplash of social media platform TikTok being banned only for what was it, 14 hours or something. And then the great reverse Uno moment where it was back again. And who knows, like this podcast coming out, is it still out? Is it not?
Yeah. Who knows?
Let us know because things are constantly changing here. We also had the deja vu inauguration of our first felon president that was attended by the three richest people in the world,
Yeah.
officially signaling an oligarchy in America. And for anyone who, like me, likes to kind of go look at the definition of what's an oligarchy, anyways, what's that actually mean? It's essentially a small group of people who have a control over a country, organization, or an institution. And when democracy is for sale, that is when you know that your government is corrupt. And here in America, they're not even trying to hide it.
Not at all.
It's wild.
Out in the open.
What we're seeing playing out on the world stage is truly dystopian. But astrologically speaking, I would argue that it is Plutonian.
Hmm.
Pluto is the planet of power, death, rebirth, and it's still at the very beginning of its double decade journey through the humanitarian fixed air sign Aquarius, which is also where the sun is currently shining its light as we begin the month of February. So, speaking truth to power is very top of mind right now for all of us. Following that new moon that we just had on January 30th, we also celebrated the Lunar New Year, and it is officially the year of the snake. And for my Swifties, if that doesn't lead to Reputation Taylor's version being dropped, I don't know what will. In the Chinese zodiac, snakes are known to be strategic. They're intuitive, they're wise. And some recent snake years include 1953, 1965, 1977, 1989, okay,
Yeah.
2001, and 2013. And when I think back through those years, two things that stand out to me. 2013 was one of the biggest years of my entire life. And that was a year of the snake, and I didn't realize that until right now. Also, my sister is a snake. She was born in 89, and my mom was a dragon, which is the year that we're coming from. So it feels personal.
Yeah, definitely. I just bought with my best friend sparkly sequin stuffed animal snakes that are really big that we wear around our necks. The idea was to take them to raves and festivals like a pashmina, but we already started wearing them. Last night we went to a reggae show and we just brought them out. It was so much fun. So love that that's happening for us in the year of the snake.
Yeah, so perfectly aligned. Do you know what year you were born as far as like what the animal was for the year?
I'm pretty sure the pig.
Mine was the year of the goat. But I remember learning about that as a kid and being like, oh, it's the goat. And then I found
I
out the
know,
goat,
same.
well, stands for greatest of all time, right?
Yeah,
So let's go with that.
I know. I was always like, really? I'm the pig? There's such cool things like dragons. I'm a pig.
Well, that just makes it easier for people to sit in the mud of life with you
Ooh, love that.
because that's where you're thriving. You're like, I
Yep.
don't care that I'm filthy. I look fantastic. I'm a pig, sure, but I'm also a mermaid, bitches.
And a scorpion.
Yeah, very much so. Double trouble. So, all of this to share at the top of the episode is to say there's a whole lot going on right now. And to help us with moving through it all, Kaylin, we would love to hear from you, talk us through the tarot, and give us an overview of the cards that you are pulling for our listeners to lean into this month.
Beautiful. So I'm about to pull some cards live for you guys. I'm really excited. Carrie found this beautiful spread, which feel free to speak to anything that came up for you when you found it. But I'm going to be pulling a card that is a wisdom for us that's represented by a rose. It's like a rose spread. So the wisdom of the rose. And then we're also going to have something to focus our attention on that's going to be represented by the thorns. And then like a basis or root, which is below. I think of that as like the shadow, right? And then guidance, sun, which is above. And I love looking to the sun as our bright shining stars, our guiding light, our true guiding light, right? Representing life force. Carrie and I were just mentioning how both of us were sick
Yeah.
to a very, very just a different degree, I think, than either of us had experienced in any recent years at all. And that's the case for a lot of people. And so looking back to the sun as our life force, Carrie also does this beautiful meditation that we did beforehand where you call all of your energy back through a sun. And so I love that this is the spread that we're using. So let's jump into it. Beginning with the wisdom and the rose, we have the Ace of Wands. I absolutely love this, especially because of what I just said about life force, right? So the wands represent a fire, which is connected to our life force. It's passion, it's our drive, it's what motivates us, right? And the aces are offerings from the tarot. It's an offering that, we can take or we can not take. They're neutral. But every time that I see an ace, I get so excited. And maybe that's just me as a generator. It's newness, it's freshness, right? I think of it as like one chapter ends and then we're beginning a new one. And so with this being the wisdom and the rose, it's like knowing that there will always be more. This is something that is really easy to remember when we're inspired. And when we're not inspired, it's not easy to remember or to connect with. It's in those times when, and again, like I'm just referencing being sick because that's the most recent thing that I personally have, but it's like that's when you're sitting in darkness and you're not connected to that spark or that light. And you have to choose to have faith, right? That's where true faith comes from. And I think that I'll just speak for myself, but I'm so used to feeling connected spiritually and just connected to my intuition and connected to life force and my spark and passion. I'm a fifth house stellium as well. So I'm so used to that. And so when that gets taken away, that's when it's like, am I going to choose to believe that this is still always going to come back? And there is always going to be something new that ignites that within me. And so I think that that's the wisdom that's being offered to us, our wisdom and our rose. And then for the thorns and something to pay attention to, we have the Four of Wands. So the Four of Wands traditionally represents happy home, happy life, like gatherings, again, in that wands, that fire energy. And so when it's saying attention and thorns, I think that this is just highlighting our relationships, which I, again, like what I know about the collective energy and what's been going on, and then also what's been going on in my life. There's a lot of like repositioning that's happening right now with relationships. And to be honest, that will mean that some relationships do end. It will also mean that some relationships transition. Maybe your soul contract with that person is simply shifting and changing. And maybe that does mean that you're going to break up or you're going to end the friendship or end the business partnership or whatever. But maybe it just means that neither of you is available anymore for what that iteration looked like before. And now we're stepping into a new one. I think that this is a really potent time to actually truly be considering, especially with this being the Four of Wands, how do you want to feel in your close relationships, in your home structure? I think this is mostly pointing to home structure, but you could also think about it like in your place of work, because that is a structure that is, it's your everyday life. It's like a work family, right? So any family dynamic, your soul family, people close to you, it's like really evaluating what those dynamics are. Is there any codependency that needs to be plucked out? Are there more boundaries that you need to set? Again, I'm speaking to myself right now. This has been definitely coming up for me in this time. There's a level of, I'd like to think that the wands are offering us bravery, because it does take bravery in order to be willing to look at these things and to be willing to say, like, where have I maybe been placing the blame externally, where actually I can go within and look at it from that direction and see what levers I can pull to make sure that I'm not taking these habits with me. This is happening at the beginning of the year. It's a portal that we all collectively step through together, and that is powerful no matter what. And so I think that this happening at the beginning of the year is a good place, even just for your brain, to have permission to be like, okay, I'm kind of overhauling my entire life right now and really looking at my systems, which includes my relationships. So that's for our attention. And then the basis or the root, you're going to laugh. So as below, we have the devil.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I was expecting to see that.
When I see the devil, this is probably very Scorpio of me. Like, for example, when I see the death card, I always get excited. I love the death card. But even the devil, when the devil finally shows himself, as in, I actually pull the card, it's because we're ready to see it. He is that sneaky subconscious that is ruling your life. And when he comes forth and you can see him for what he is, that's when you can make lasting change and choose a different thought, right? In the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, the thing that stands out to me the most about the devil is that humans are shackled by the devil, but they are huge shackles. They could simply just take them off, but it's the illusion, right? It's the illusion of being shackled to something. And so it's doing that deep shadow work right now of like being gentle, because there are so many energies at play. And like, I mean, there's a lot of dark energy right now too. Like, we have to protect ourselves, clear our energy fields, and then also understand that not everything you're feeling is yours, And so like deciding if you want to take ownership of it or not. And some of that can just simply fall away and transmute it. But the sneaky element of the devil here is tricking us to believe that it's all ours, and it's not. We don't have to take
Mm.
ownership of all of the things that are going on all around us, because there is fucking evil and darkness in the world. And even if it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm thinking about this or I'm thinking about XYZ that's going on across the world, it's like it's still affecting us on a collective level energetically, because we're all connected at all times. So gentleness as we go through all of our uprooting processes that are occurring right now. And then guidance, the sun as above. We have the Page of Swords.
Nice.
So this is interesting. I'm really curious to hear what you're going to say, because you always have such beautiful reflections about the swords, particularly, and it's your Gemini rising, right? Like giving a different perspective about the air quality. But with this being our card, the sun, and our guidance, I think this is just reminding us, even in those hard moments where you don't feel connected to what thought you want to align with. So, for example, like for me, when I was sick, I'm like, okay, I know that I'm having a negative thought right now. I can recognize that I'm creating this negative experience for myself. But when I try to shift the thought, usually I experience a feeling, like I can feel the difference of like, oh wow, it feels so much better to think this. And I was
Mm.
not connected to that feeling. And so we have to just choose to not be a killjoy. Like, who do I want to be right now? Truly, who do I want to be? And what thought do I actually want to be thinking right now? What piece of my mind garden do I actually want to be cultivating? Do I want to sit here in the weeds and be just like pulling out weeds right now? Or do I just need to go smell some beautiful flowers? The Page of Swords just always reminds me you're holding that sword and you get to decide how you wield it. And is now really the time to question your entire life and career? Like, is that really serving you? Maybe you decide that it is because you just need to kind of go through that loop and spin your wheels a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe you can recognize, like, I am not in a stable place to really be able to think about this in a way that's productive, and I'm keeping myself in a thought loop that is affecting my entire emotional body and is putting me in a space that I do not want to be in. And so just remembering to be on your own team and protect yourself even from your own monkey mind. Do you have anything else to add?
I want to share one word for each thing that you shared on each card, just for us to play with and integrate as we move through all of the transits. But before I do, thank you so much for everything that you shared.
Of
There
course.
are a lot of petals on this rose spread, which, by the way, just to give credit for the spread, I came up with it. I just
You came
threw
up with
that.
it.
Yeah. So I'm based here in Portland, Oregon, which is known as the City of Roses. And that was where the idea of the rose being kind of the focal point of the spread came from. And then you picked up on it, as above, so below. Absolutely the case. And then you have to have a little card that's creating some tension, some cross, some thorns up in here. But that's kind of a fun visual that came from Source, the ethers, God, however you want to describe that energy for this podcast as part of the rebrand and relaunch that we're still kind of navigating together collectively. But to go from there into these quick words to play with, for Ace of Wands, I wrote down spark. For the Four of Wands, I wrote down build. For the Devil, I wrote down liberate. And for the Page of Swords, I wrote down learn.
Mm,
So as we're moving through these transits, as we're talking through them, how can you have that spark? How can you build? Where could you liberate yourself and where could you expand yourself through learning and integrating some of the wisdom that Kaylin has shared here? So as we dive deeper into the energetics that we are going to be working with this month, talking through these astrological transits and weaving the tidbits of the tarot throughout. So jumping right into that, we begin the month with Mars still retrograde in Cancer, and we are still integrating the Aquarius New Moon, which was on January 29th. Shout out to a friend of the podcast, 𝗬𝗓𝗄𝗃, who happened to celebrate her 30th birthday on the 29th. Fun fact, she is a double Aquarius sun and moon, similar to Kaylin with the double Scorpio energy. So we got some new moon energy here. I think that that's really an electric wave that we rode into February. And February is our month really to prepare for things to start to speed up with eclipse season coming on the horizon in March. Setting the scene, we have Venus in her pre-retrograde shadow period as of January 28th and going to be changing signs to Aries right at the start of the month on Monday, the 3rd. Venus is at home when it's traveling through its rulership signs of Taurus and Libra. And so when Venus transits through the opposite signs of Scorpio or Aries, it feels less at home. In astrological dignity, this is known as being in detriment. So what this means is that Venus wants to stop and smell the roses, and in cardinal fire sign Aries, things are moving too quickly to linger too long to take in the beauty of the moment. Venus wants harmony. Venus wants to focus on relationships. And when Venus is in Aries, it's summoning up the courage to value pleasing itself before stopping to please others. This transit is one to pay attention to, as with the Venus retrograde coming on March 1st, we'll be revisiting the Venusian themes that are coming up for us right now, which can be heart opening or heartbreaking. You'll
mm,
want to look at your own natal chart to see where you have Aries to know what arena of your life is being visited by Venus in her emphasis. So for an Aries rising, that would be your first house of identity. For a Taurus rising, that would be your 12th house of the subconscious mind. Gemini rising, 11th, going back through the zodiac and back through the numbers you can count. Or just pull up your chart and take a look and look for the sign, and see where that falls for you to kind of get a sense of what is being highlighted. Caitlin, do you have anything to add with the tarot and how you think that can kind of connect to the wisdom for this Venus retrograde?
It just points me back to the Ace of Wands. I love what you said. Like it could be heart opening or heartbreaking. When a heart breaks, it's always going to open again if we allow it to. And so just kind of existing on that spectrum and allowing yourself to feel that tension. I mean, the Venusian values and the way that we feel that transit, it's such an invitation to just play with it because of how it's the aesthetic and the beauty. And it's like, what vibe do I want to create? I mean, that's just the way that I move through the world in general. It's like, what vibe am I creating and experiencing and curating? And so if it doesn't feel good, like what you were saying about Aries being too quick and things like that, it's like, explore that tension.
Really love everything that you just shared. And jumping further into the month, on Tuesday, the 4th of February, is when we're going to have Jupiter stationed direct at 11 degrees Gemini. Jupiter has been retrograde since back in October. With these outer planets, keep in mind they go retrograde every year. So that's not as big of a surprise. But Jupiter's transit through each sign is approximately 1 year. So it's not going to get to go retrograde in the sign of Gemini again and again and again. It's only going to get to go retrograde in the sign of Gemini once every 12 years. So that does give it a different flavor and an experience of that. Now, with this Jupiter direct momentum, we are going to feel that, but it's going to feel more subtle because Jupiter is an outer planet. And so the transit doesn't feel as personal or immediate as some of these other inner planet transits when those station direct will be feeling them more directly. That being said, if you have Sagittarius or Pisces placements that are significant, Sun, Moon, Rising, those inner planets like Mars, Venus, then you're maybe going to feel this a little bit more intensely than other people will, where you're like, whoa, actually, this is not subtle at all. It feels like the lid just came off. Let's go, Pandora's box. Like, let's ride. Yeah, and in the sign of Gemini, though, similarly, we've got another detriment scenario going on because Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius. Opposite sign of Sagittarius is Gemini. So it's not functioning to its highest capacity when it's in the sign of Gemini, but it is bringing in themes of expansion and growth, which is Jupiter energy, into the Gemini Islander territory, such as communication. So if you happen to be like a writer or a speaker, if you happen to be communicating in your job or in your hobbies, February is going to be a really great month for you to push past any of your writer's block and start putting your pen to paper again, get your journal out, get going with some of those ideas and bringing them to fruition. This is going to be a really excellent time also for exploring new social media platforms. People are not picking up what Mark Zuckerberg is putting down anymore. Things are going to be shifting there in a big way. And I think February's astrology is very supportive of that.
Beautiful. Gemini is always learning. And I always like to say, I probably learned this from you, but inviting the curiosity with the learning, right? Learning can be fun. Learning can also be not so fun, depending on how much resistance we have and how constrictive it feels. And the more that we can offer curiosity, the better or the easier it can become.
Yes, a willingness to change your mind as
Hmm.
well. And it's funny you said Gemini is always learning. I have a mug that says always learning on it.
Of course you do.
And I'm a Gemini rising. So, yes, of course I do. I
Hmm.
would have that mug. I should be drinking out of it right now. But of course, I had to have the cold brew. I'm a millennial. I'm addicted to the cold brew. What can I say? So, following Jupiter stationing direct, Venus now in the pre-retrograde shadow period and in Aries, on Super Bowl Sunday, which is the 9th of February, we have a Mercury Sun cazimi that's happening in Aquarius, of course. And alongside that, we have Mars, who's still retrograde in Cancer, forming a positive trine aspect to Saturn in Pisces. This is a really supportive energy for saying what you need to say, It's also supportive of committing to the workout regimen or other type of movement, ritual, or activity, things that are very Martian in nature that will require dedication, Saturnian themes, in order to see progress. So, if one of your goals for the new year is to be more active, carving out some intentional time to get moving on this Sunday, the 9th, would be great. And then right after that, jumping into the full moon in Leo on Wednesday, the 12th at 5:53 a.m. Pacific time will be happening at 24 degrees of Leo. And I want to jump right into this because that aspect I just mentioned between Saturn and Pisces and Mars retrograde in Cancer in that positive trine is happening in the backdrop of this full moon in Leo. And there's also a fixed T sign square, which, if you can imagine, the sun is in Aquarius, the moon's in Leo. That opposition is what creates a full moon. And both of those luminaries, the sun and the moon, are in a 90-degree angle to the planet Uranus in Taurus. And that tension is putting all that pressure and focus onto Uranus. And Uranus is all about innovating. Uranus is all about rebelling and creating change. And full moons are about releases and culminations and things coming to light that previously were not seen or maybe just weren't acknowledged. So something needs to change. I think this is the biggest story that's unfolding for us during the full moon in Leo. It's going to feel a little tense. And if you have fixed sign placements like Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, I'm talking to you, then this might feel a little bit more dramatic or more tense. But that doesn't mean that you need to be afraid of it, just that you need to be gentle with yourself and others as you move through it. And then keep in mind, we've got a couple positive aspects happening here. We have a sextile between Pluto and Aquarius and Venus and Aries, which is going to boost the creativity energy at this time. And then we, of course, have that Saturn Mars trine, which is supporting us in taking actions towards our long-term intentions. Kaylin, do you have any insights on this full moon and our tarot allies for the month?
Yes, I also would love to pull another card specifically
Yay!
at the full moon. I'm going to be using an oracle deck. It's called the Threads of Fate oracle deck. And this was actually my first deck that I ever got of any cards.
Mm.
So, what do we need to know for this full moon? Dare to dream. I love this. Someone told me the other day that I was a big dreamer. And it was funny because I don't necessarily feel like I identify as that. And then I thought about it. I was like, of course I'm a huge dreamer, but I'm not Piscean. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like you. um, but I dream big, right? Because like what we came here to do that. So I get really excited when we get a card like this, like Dare to Dream. And Leo is larger than life. I think of Leo as a very dreaming sign. Life is a stage, obviously, type of vibe. And when we're releasing and when we're having such a tense moment, like you said, with Uranus, I think that that is also liberation. My mind goes to Star Wars, of course, is like the rebellion and the rebels, and then they free everyone. They free the entire fucking galaxy because of their rebellion. And so, yes, things feel tense and like there are losses. We have to cut our losses. And at the same time, what does that bring forth? Right.
Mm.
And, we're starting to see a theme here with like how much you release can determine how much freedom you have to move in the direction that you actually want. And something that is speaking to me on this card, particularly just for right now, is that it's showing like some talons. I don't know if it's from a bird or a dragon holding onto a gem. And
Mm.
it's just a reminder to me of like, don't clutch the things too hard. Sometimes we get so focused on what we're dreaming about that we forget all of the beautiful synchronicities of the universe that's trying to push us in a direction. And it's like, yes, sometimes our original dream, exactly how we saw it, was divinely given from source. And sometimes it was given to us to guide us in a direction. And that wasn't going to be the end goal. And it's like we have to remember to keep an open hand and just invite more play, I think I would say. And that's also very on brand with Leo for me, is like the aspect of play and inner child. And like a child might want to go to Disneyland, but if you take them to Six Flags instead, I mean, I don't know, maybe some child would cry and be upset, but like they're still going to be happy about it. You know what I mean? It's the same vision. Like they wanted to go to an amusement park, but they're not so tied to like exactly how it needs to look, you know?
Well, what you think you want and what you actually want,
Yeah.
holding the space for that to not be the same thing can be really powerful. And I love that example you just provided about a child wanting to go to Disneyland because when I was a child, I had an opportunity to go to Disneyland. It was a really big deal because I grew up dirt poor. Single mom, we ain't going to anywhere but maybe McDonald's. Going to Disneyland, huge, big opportunity. My mom, however, was adamant that we also went to Knott's Berry Farm. Are you familiar with
Oh yeah.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I bet you are. Okay, so what happened is we went to Knott's Berry Farm first. I had the time of my life, the
Hmm.
time of my life at this place. Amusement park, unhinged joy, just the whole day. The next day when we went to Disneyland, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
And it's not because Disneyland's not great. Disneyland is great. It is. This is not sponsored by Disneyland, by the way, obviously. But because I had that contrast, it was very much that situation where what I thought I wanted, Disneyland, Disneyland, Disneyland. It's what I've always heard. It's always nobody had ever told me about this other amusement park was fact checked in that contrast immediately, where I was like, damn, this thing that I didn't even know existed, that I also had this opportunity to go and explore and experience was for me in that time in my life felt even better.
Mm.
And I had the value of it was deeper because of the contrast. And I think what you said also too about you being a dreamer, you dream deep because you're that double Scorpio. So your dreaming is really, really internal before it's external, but that doesn't mean it doesn't move quickly. You got a lot of Sagittarius in you, so it's probably
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
quite big and fiery and fast. And that fifth house stellium is it's go time.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
So love that you shared that. And I think this full moon is it's a primer for eclipse season, just like everything else we're talking about in this episode. And there's some actions here for the collective to take that are going to be about those humanitarian energies of Aquarius. And with Uranus in the mix, I think, this is the time to cancel your Amazon subscription or to literally delete your Facebook or whatever it is to speak truth to power with our actions, I think is going to come up at this time and continue to come up throughout the year. But moving into our next transit on Valentine's Day, which is Friday the 14th, we have Mercury quick moving entering into Pisces. Now, Mercury is ruler of Virgo, and the opposite sign of Virgo is Pisces. So we have another scenario where it's in its detriment. Now, if you know anybody who has their natal Mercury in Pisces, or maybe that's you if you're listening, then you may have noticed that those folks tend to communicate through abstract channels. So something that they'll do is they'll like send you a song to say how they feel instead of just telling you directly. And then during this transit, Mercury in Pisces, it's wanting to like play Pictionary rather than write out what they're trying to say in a text message. You're not going to get a letter from someone during this time. You're going to get a collage of
Mm.
sorts that you're going to need to interpret. It's going to require some creativity, some interpretation. And I think that that's the invitation with Mercury in Pisces is like, okay, it's not incredibly clear right out the gate because you're not using your words to say what you're saying. But if I'm tuning in, I actually can feel what you're saying. If I'm listening without my ears, if I'm listening with my eyes, if I'm seeing the body language, if I'm allowing myself to feel your presence, like I actually can get more information out of what you're saying through these intuitive channels than if you were to use all the words in the universe to describe it to me. And that is the opportunity with this particular transit. And I think it's helpful for us to ask questions instead of make assumptions if we aren't sure, if we need that clarity, and then just be playful with the messages that you're delivering and receiving in the next couple of weeks with Mercury and Pisces. Get yourself covered in the paint of it. Do you see any ways that this connects to the tarot for the month?
Everything that you just said, honestly, I think you tied it in really well. Themes that we were talking about.
I'm tie-dyeing it up in here.
Yes.
Okay, so right after that, we do have Pisces season kicking off on Tuesday, the 18th. So, of course, that means the sun is moving into Pisces and it's getting closer to Saturn, who's in Pisces. The North Node is in Pisces. So, this is a good time to get out your crayons, your watercolors, and of course your tarot decks. Go ahead and expand your weirdness from Aquarius season and just make some art out of it. I also feel like Pisces season often has the most incredible sunsets, or if you're an early riser, unlike me, maybe sunrises, depending on your flavor. And this is a great time to dream on. And don't forget to look up because you might be missing something if you're not giving yourself the permission to stop, pause, be present, soak it all in.
Dare to dream. A lot of times when I tune into specifically the lunar cycle and the way that those cycles work, it's like the full moon does a lot more than sometimes we give it credit for. It's like we think of the new moon as like the seed, right? And then building to the full moon to release. But I feel like a lot of times the full moon and what we release kind of informs the next. And obviously it's both, right? But I just think that it's really interesting that we have this Leo full moon right before Pisces season, and then it's encouraging us to dream. I think that then once we step into Pisces season, now that we have released all of the barriers to dreaming in the sense of like getting out of our own way, what does that then look like, right?
Yeah. And what does it get to feel like?
Exactly.
Because it's Piscean.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the feelings, and the feelings are front and center in the month of February. And that is because Mars, again, has been in the sign of Cancer retrograde, but that all changes on Sunday, the 23rd, when Mars is going to station direct at last. And Mars has been retrograde since the beginning of December. So we are really, really ready for this by the time that it is direct towards the end of February. And this is when we're going to start to feel the new year momentum that we all wish magically came along with the first of the year. That very same day, the 23rd, we also have a supportive trine aspect happening between Mercury in Pisces and Mars in Cancer, now stationed direct. So this is going to help sweeten up the energetic shift and support it. Mars, of course, is a personal planet. So this forward push of energy is something that we're going to feel with more intensity than when Jupiter stationed direct earlier in the month. It's go time. If you've been simmering on something, but you haven't felt like you had the energy to pursue it, this forward momentum from Mars is the big, beautiful yes from the universe. So, this is the time to go sign up for the class, apply for the job, ask the person out on a date, get yourself a therapist, whatever it is that you need for you. The answer is now. That said, Mars has been traveling through this part of Cancer, and with all retrogrades, there's an overlap. So the planet goes forward, it goes back, and then it goes forward again. So you can imagine you're driving your car out of your neighborhood, but you forget something and you need to go back home. So you turn back around, you drive the same path that you just took to your house, and then you grab whatever you need, get back in your car, and now you're ready to drive forward again out of the neighborhood at last. We are at the getting ready to drive forward again part of this analogy. And so we've been here before and we have familiarity with the terrain that we're traveling. But this means that we can encounter some similar circumstances, challenges, and opportunities, but we're looking at it with fresh eyes. So with Mars and Cancer, we want to be paying attention to where we feel called to flow forward and ask ourselves, how can we intuitively choose the next path as we get out of the neighborhood and head towards our next destination? On the flip side, it's also a good practice to check in and make sure that your feelings aren't the only factor driving the car forward entirely. Because Mars and Cancer can make impulsive decisions that come from emotional reactions that can lead to positive or negative outcomes. So, feelings are like the weather. Just remember that they're temporary. Sleep on it if you're not sure about your own motives for movement as Mars gets going through Cancer's waters.
I just wanted to share a download that I had yesterday when I was at the ocean, which was just like the waves are unpredictable, and yet we can learn to ride them. So we can also learn to flow with our emotions.
Mm.
Um, and I'm sure that's been said before. It's not like a crazy, like out of this world thing, but it came through so clearly as I was watching the waves. I just think that that speaks to exactly what you were just saying about Mars being in Cancer, because it's like we have had kind of this start stop energy and like, well, how do I feel and how do I not feel? And like it's not time to take action yet, and now it is time to take act, you know what I mean? And being able to just ride those emotions and flow with them, and at the same time use our logical brain and know what actions are meant for us to take and knowing what is resonant for us. Again, there's this element of bravery and boldness and standing in that and being willing to march forward and take the first step, even if we don't know step two, three, four, five, six, we're going to start to see and feel actually an Ace of Wands moment with this. Ask the universe to reveal this to you during this time. Like, show me what is the most aligned action for me to take right now. And maybe you've been thinking that you're going to make a big career move, and actually, the most aligned action for you to take is in the realm of your relationships, right? And at the same time, being open to, I'm willing and ready to move however I need to move to get what I want.
Mm, so potent, so wise. Yeah, the opportunity to reframe things with how you're moving through the world is so top of mind with this transit. Absolutely love everything you just shared. Thank you so much. We wrap up the month with on Thursday, the 27th, we have the new moon in Pisces, which is going to be taking place at 9 degrees Pisces. And you're going to love this, Caitlin. It is happening at 4:44 p.m.
Oh my
Pacific time.
God, that's amazing.
That's your number, is it not?
Yeah, yeah, that's one of my numbers. And your birthday, 12/12.
Yeah, it is because 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12.
Oh
Give
my
me
God, I
a
didn't think about that.
give me a dozen give me a dozen eggs right now, am I right? So before I talk about the new moon, just knowing the angel number, do you have any insight that you want to share about the influence of that? I think that's pretty cool that it just happens to be exact.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, 444 is stability, right? Family, protection, building. What you said earlier about the Four of Wands. It's right on target with that.
Yeah, these four walls, what are
Yeah.
you building within it? So we've got Jupiter, the traditional ruler of Pisces, in a square aspect to the new moon. And that's going to be bringing up some tension that we have around Jupiter themes like spirituality, growth, opportunities, or our core beliefs. I think will be some of the things that are coming up for us or being challenged right now, maybe being invited to reframe that. Maybe your spiritual practice changes. Maybe you have some grief around that. Maybe you had a big transition in life where you can't have the same practices in place with consistency that you had before. How can you reframe that? How can you rebuild that? How can you see this as an opportunity instead of just as a loss or a transition or change that maybe happened without your input or consent? This can also highlight a desire to take action on something that would feel emotionally fulfilling, that Piscean energy, because Jupiter has been direct all of the month at this point, and now that Mars is also direct, this new moon could be beckoning us to start something new, especially within the creative realm. This is also the last lunation. It's the final new moon before eclipse season. What's coming up on the horizon is eclipse energy. So if you're wanting to manifest something, if you're wanting to dream your big dream and then leverage the Saturn energy, because Saturn's there in Pisces as well, Saturn wants to help make that shit real. Saturn says, keep dreaming, sure, but like, what's the action plan? Do you have a spreadsheet? And I'm not saying put pressure on yourself to develop the spreadsheet, but allow those things to come in. Allow those people too also to come in and say, oh, what if you turned it this direction and the light hits it this way? Now you've got all these prisms everywhere. Now you're seeing it a little bit different. Now it's coming into the physical realm. It's not just living in your brain or in your heart and your feelings. And in the background of this new moon, we have Mars also in a square to asteroid Chiron. And
Mm.
Chiron is the wounded healer. So it might feel a little painful to pursue your dreams if you get lost in the disparity that what you desire may not feel or be accessible to everyone else. I bring this up because Piscean energy can sometimes have us overly compassionate or empathetic, where we get lost within ourselves because we're focusing on others. And that often is coming from a really good place in our own hearts, but that doesn't mean it's a good reason to deny yourself the opportunity to expand. Jupiter in the
Mm,
mix here says expand, go for it. That's a theme here because of that Jupiter square. The new you is going to cost you the old you and the current you as well. And there's grief there, but there's also so much to celebrate there. Like this Four of Wands, like it's this building blocks, this place that you're taking up residence. You can still miss the old place. But if you're clinging to that, if you're holding on to that, you're completely missing out the opportunity to embrace and enjoy the four walls that are currently holding you up. And they're here to support you.
that was it's a lot for me to think about. I would love to pull a card for the new moon with my
Yes.
oracle cards again. Let's
Lovely.
see what they have for us. I also love a Pisces new moon. The Pisces new moon is when I manifested my moon to San Diego for it will have been 4 years, which okay, the four theme.
Yeah.
Um, on that new moon, it will have been 4 years. Ooh, take risk.
Ooh.
You just said that. There's such a theme to like bravery and boldness here. And we receive our nudges and our intuition towards our dreams. And even if they seem like small steps, like we still have to take risk and take steps towards them. Like that is our human responsibility, the part that is a co-creation with the universe, right? We don't just wake up one day and have everything we want without moving a single finger. And also, that wouldn't be fun. You got to do the human thing, right? There's a goat on here as well. It makes me think of like very Capricornian, like you got to climb the mountain. It's just coming back up what I said about like sometimes you start to go up the mountain and you see like, okay, maybe I actually want to take a different trail. Like I started going up this way, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like whatever got me here got me here. But it's like, oh, but I thought I was going to go up that way. Like what if we were just going up the east side of the mountain and we're like, no, like I just don't want to release that. And so we don't go up, the north side and we don't see the beautiful sunset because we're so used to being only with what's right in front of us because we're living in response and we have to give ourselves the time and space to dream, to be in that Piscean energy, to like, do all of the foundational work that we talked about for the beginning of this month so that we feel like we have the space and the inspiration to take the step once it's time.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that 100%. The permission to dream and to take actions. Mars is direct now. Let's leverage that. Let's go after what we want. And the new moon happening at 9 degrees, we have Saturn at 20 degrees. So the sun and the moon, they're moving towards that Saturn. This is the planting of the seed before we get to that Saturn conjunction where it's like, okay, but how do you make it real? Like we're still in dream space right now. So dream on.
Yeah.
And we also have the last thing I want to mention, which is about this new moon, is a positive aspect between Uranus in Taurus and sextile, which is a 60-degree aspect to Mercury in Pisces. And that's saying, hey, there's an opportunity here. Don't overlook it just because it's got the prerequisite of effort, just because
Mm,
it's going to require that you try. And trying means that you have to maybe also be open to failing or succeeding. But the return on investment of you trying and potentially failing or succeeding is growth and expansion. And that's what Jupiter wants for all of us at this point. Jupiter's moving forward, Mars is moving forward. Everything is queuing up for eclipse season. So if you want to manifest something, if you want to dream something into life, this is your opportunity to do that on the 27th of February. 444. If you can catch it, do. Do catch it. 4:44 p.m., February 27th. Set the alarm. What a magical moment. Just taking 60 seconds
yep.
to visualize the best things, to tell yourself the most beautiful, positive affirmations about yourself, about others, to affirm the dreams and visions that you most want to be real, to say them as though they already are. I have written on my board here next to me at my desk, I believe something wonderful will happen today. That is what I read every single day to myself. And when I see it, I say it. So, multiple times throughout the day, I say, I believe something wonderful will happen today. That is the new moon in Pisces energy. Take it or leave it. I am a Pisces moon person, though.
Snap. Major snaps.
Snap, snap, snaps. Well, Kaylin, this has been absolutely a delight to have you here on the podcast. Before we wrap everything up, I would love if you shared anything at all about the tarot that stands out to you for this month, any themes, any like psychic, spiritual downloads for our listeners to integrate as they continue moving through the month of February, or if they're coming back. I know people dip back into these episodes and listen to them months and sometimes shockingly to me, years later. The last Transits and Tarot episode of December of 2021 continued to be listened to for years.
Wow.
So people be coming back. So if you're listening, this is for you. So is there anything at all that you feel called to share as we wrap things up here?
Return to what feels the most natural to you and inherent to you. And I will say that for everyone, a good lever to pull is nature. This is truly what made me feel like I was able to survive when I was really sick and I felt like I had no life force. Nature gave that to me every single time. And not just going into nature, but doing so with intention. Yes, we talk about living with intention and like do things with intention, but how often do we actually tell our coffee what we want it to do? How often do we
Mm.
actually tell the joint what we want it to do before we smoke it? Like, how often do we actually speak love into our water? How often do we take an intentional breath and state out loud what we are breathing in and what we are releasing? Like, how often do we actually do that? And doing those things, even if you don't feel the shift in the moment, like they do shift your energy and your energy body. And so those are things that we can return to no matter what we're going through, no matter which stage of any of these transits we're going through, and you can leverage that more for releasing and you can leverage that more for manifesting.
Wow, that's lovely. Lovely wisdom for us to integrate and simmer on and come back to. Everything is just unfolding all at once, everything everywhere all at once,
Yeah.
always. And it gets to be whatever you want to interpret it as because thoughts become things and feelings are guides, but they're temporary. So checking in with yourself as you're moving through this energy of the month, the collective is going to continue to unravel some of the bigger themes of what's going on in our world as we get further into this year. And everything will change next month in March. This eclipse season is going to be one for the books. So if we can do our best to take care of ourselves and take care of each other during the month of February, to allow ourselves the space to be learning and have that growth mindset, to liberate ourselves from our perceived chains, the devil energy, to build and rebuild and celebrate the small and big wins, the joys along the way, the Four of Wands, and to ignite our spark, to reach out for what we want, which means you have to get clear about what you want in order to have that Ace of Wands grabbing moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna go for it. You have to actually go for it. Not everything in life's just gonna fall from the sky and land in your lap. And even if it does, you might miss it if you're not paying attention. So pay attention. Venus retrograde comes next and the eclipse season. So it all
Buckle.
can get better from here.
Yes.
Well, thank you again so much, Kaylin. It was absolutely a highlight to get to collaborate with you and bring you to our amazing listeners. And hopefully, we'll have another opportunity to collaborate again soon. And I just appreciate you to the ends of the earth. And even then, I'd say beyond that.
I always say, love you to Venus and back. I don't even know why. Venus is
Mm,
just beautiful, right? Like, why wouldn't I want to love you to Venus and back?
chef's
But
kiss.
for having me on. And yeah, sending love to everyone listening. Remember to be gentle with yourself. You are receiving love from us and tap into that. You can tap into the oneness of source and that divine love at any time, but use us as maybe a guiding light if you need that in this moment. Just know that we are sending you love.
Yes, oneness. Very Piscean.
Mhm.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to share it out and go give us some ratings because we need to get back into the world of this podcast existing. So always appreciate you all supporting us and breathing more life into this podcast and what it is currently becoming. Thank you again so much always for listening and giving us a bit of your time. And we'll catch you in the next episode.